All right, just jumping right into it this week. No fancy little intro thingy. At least I didn't plan it when I started recording. Different mic setup because I'm starting to re-record. We're starting to record again our podcast that I do, Entrepreneurs, with my friend Bonnie. We're going to start that back up on Monday. And so I had to go on a shoot this week and kind of tore apart my office. And then when I was putting it back together, I put this mic back up because this is the one I'm going to need on Monday. So different mic. Not sure how I feel about it being in frame and stuff, but it's okay. It's all right. So what I learned this week, the week of January 22nd, 2024. Number one, momentum is real and tangible. And I think that maybe it's just my personality, but sometimes I get stuck in kind of these ruts of when things don't happen or they don't happen as quickly as I thought they would, or it just doesn't feel like there's any momentum. I feel like I'm stuck and I feel like I'm hemmed in maybe, or again, just in a rut. What I learned this week is that momentum is just very real. And like once it starts to build, you can kind of feel the push of it, in a certain direction. And it could be bad and it could be good. I feel like momentum is a thing that it could go either way. It was a good thing this week. I will say that it was a great thing this week. Just some things to kind of rattle off of why it was a good thing. I got a podcast editing retainer, which is awesome. Like I totally want to do more of that. So that was amazing. I submitted my first government bid, which is kind of cool. And I got to do some things that I said I've been doing in the other videos. Like I got to pull in some people that I trust and some people that I would like to work with to be a part of that. And so that's cool. I had a shoot, which always just like getting out and shooting, like that always kind of just helps the week feel like it's just moving and grooving. And then like this next week, like I have a bunch of meetings. And so it just feels like, once one thing kind of happens and you feel jazzed about it and you feel good to go and you're feeling like it's a victory, like it just kind of feels like it keeps going in that direction a little bit, at least this week. Now here's the caveat to all of it. And that is that like I was still reminded this week that my gut still is right? Like I had submitted a quote for a job and we wound up having an additional call about it with some other folks that were involved in kind of the decision-making process. And I got off the call and I just felt like it just wasn't going to happen. Like it just was this feeling like, I don't know what it was about the call. I don't know if it was something I said or if it was just something that I was reading in the room. But I got off and I was like, I just don't think this is going to happen. And sure enough, it's not happening, And so that's interesting because like, I had all this momentum, felt really good about how the week was going. That call happened on Friday. And then it was kind of like, But then I had to stop myself. And the third thing is basically, I struggle with rejection. I've struggled in the first 2 years of my business to feel like a success if people are telling me no, when in reality, I just get told no a lot. And it's not necessarily because I'm doing something wrong. A lot of times the best I can do is just to present my best, to put my best foot forward. And if somebody doesn't want that, then that's actually not about me typically, right? It's usually that's their choice. I have zero control over that at that point. And so at the same time, I've always struggled with that. I've struggled with just the idea that it's not a personal, there's not some personal statement being made when someone says no. Like that's a hard thing for me to get beyond. But I do feel like today where I'm sitting, a day after having had that call, a day after having been told no, is the momentum still there. Like rejection didn't stop the momentum. And maybe that's partially because I decided to not let it stop the momentum. But I think there's just a reality to it too, that like me being told no on Friday doesn't cancel my meeting on Monday and doesn't cancel my meeting on Tuesday and doesn't cancel my next shoot on Wednesday. Like that rejection, and I'm calling it rejection, which may be a little strong, but they decided not to work with me. So that's how I like to frame it. Maybe that's not the right way to put it. Anyways, the realization that no doesn't impact the other yeses unless I let it, right? Like, unless I say, woe is me, I might as well just blow the whole thing up. Now, I'm not saying I haven't been there, but in this, in this season, which has been a really hard season, like this has been the worst season of my business. Financially, getting new work, new clients, like the past 2 months has been the worst season of my business, hands down. Like, no argument needed. Like I can argue that with numbers. I can argue it with feelings. Like I can argue it all sorts of ways. It's important for me to recognize, and I'm processing a ton out loud right now. It's important for me to recognize that in this season, in what I can hands down say is the worst season I've had in my business so far, that number one, I can feel the momentum and see the momentum. That number two, rejection is not impeding my momentum. And number three, that I even have the mindset to be able to say that rejection is not impeding my momentum. I'm doing okay. Like I've come a pretty long way. And I was talking with my counselor last week maybe, and he's seen the videos. And I was like, like, is that okay? And he's like, yeah, this is great. Like, if this is the way you need to process, like process this way. Like this is fantastic. So I'm going to keep going. That was what I needed to hear. I'm going to keep going. Those are the things I learned this week. I hope you're learning a lot this week. Thank you for those of you who are watching this, and for those of you who are just stumbling upon it. I hope I'm not a crazy person. But yeah, this is what I'm learning in my journey. So thanks for coming along for the ride. Thanks for being here, and I will see you next week.